Hello and welcome to Normal Islands Live. I'm, of course, Curtis Daly. And once again, I'm joined by Kevin Logan. Kevin, how's your Friday?
It's going sensationally well. All the better for having your presence, sir.
Thank you. And you know what? This is a far better start from Wednesday, isn't it?
It's a far better start than it's a far earlier start, certainly.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, we've got a big show coming up. I know you've been checking the news to see whether a particular person has resigned. We will be speaking about that. Also tonight, we'll be discussing the Greens promoting their policy of a 10-to-1 wage ratio. AI companies faced backlash after dystopian billboards. And of course, I teased it, the bombshell story of the government covering up Peter Mandelson failing his security clearance. Remember, please like the stream and make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you want to support us, then you can go to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support to help fund our work. First story. Zach Polanski has announced the Green Party's plan to tackle the affordability crisis and the end of food bank use. They said this. The Green Party has warned that the use of food banks in the UK has become normalised, pointing to the fact that around 6.5 million people a year turn to charitable food providers and that only 1 in 5 people doing so are from a working household. In 2025, 2.9 million emergency parcels, food parcels even, were provided to people facing hardship across the UK between April 2024 and March 2025, with more than 1 million of those provided for children. Green Party leader Zach Polanski and Deputy Leader Rachel Millward will use a visit, and they have now used a visit, to a community fridge in Sussex. That happened on Wednesday, and they announced measures to end the normalisation of food banks and tackle the affordability crisis. They will call for universal support with energy bills this winter, the extension of free school meals to all primary schools and secondary schools, the introduction of rent controls because housing costs are one of the greatest impacts on household poverty, the UK to join a customs union with the EU to reduce costs to businesses, and the introduction of a 10-to-1 pay ratio, which would help increase wages for those on lower incomes while limiting the salaries of high-paid executives. Now, it's that last point, the 10-to-1 pay ratio, which has got people talking. The 10-to-1 pay ratio is genuinely a stupid policy. So many sports like F1 and football would be well and truly destroyed. Others, like rugby and cricket, would be kneecapped. The first is ridiculous. Tesco employee could earn £14 an hour, and you want the CEO to work £140 an hour, then get taxed half? Nah. CEO of the company I work for is on about £2 million a year. 10-to-1 ratio doesn't put me and the other 15,000 employees on £200,000 a year. We're already on decent money. It just pushes the people at the top down, meaning they pass less tax, meaning we will have to pick up that lost tax burden. The Greens are utterly clueless. Although Alonso made an interesting point. We are witnessing an incredible new ideology emerge. Don't vote Green because their immigration policies will lower working class salaries by importing cheap labour, but also don't vote Green because their 10-to-1 policy will force businesses to raise working class salaries to please CEOs. Now, it's clear many people don't understand the pay ratio. It's not, a cleaner just getting on 50 grand a week. The point is to bring down the top pay, which is, the tweet by Max, they're right. Because inequality is a huge problem. And yes, some people are just paid too much. And that's the multimillionaires and billionaires. It's also worth pointing this out. Average annual national earnings increased from £788 in 1968 to £31,616 in 2022, compared with the increase in median CEO remuneration over the same period from 23,000 to 3,910,000. The ratio of CEO pay to average annual national earnings increased from 30-1 in 1968 to a peak of 178 in 2016. It fell during COVID to 87-1 in 2020, before rising again to 124-1 by 2022. So the idea of a pay ratio, it's radical, but when you look at how much inequality has exploded, you can understand why people are calling for it. Now, look, people in this country, they lean left when it comes to the economy. They support nationalisation. They support the increasing taxes on the rich. You know, a lot of Green Party policies are popular, but is this one too radical for people? Well, maybe not. Survation, actually, no, now YouGov, Survation did a poll last year, or a couple of years ago. YouGov has just come out with a new poll, and that shows that people quite like this idea. So 41% of people support this policy strongly, 24% somewhat, which equals 65% of the public supporting a 10-to-1 pay ratio, with 17% opposing it. And of those 17%, 7% are those who are strongly against it. Now, being asked what you think the ratio should be versus implementing a policy to force it are two different things. I mean, the general public can be quite funny about this sort of thing. If a poll was conducted that said, do you support a policy of enforcing a 10-to-1 pay ratio? You might get a different result. It's also worth mentioning that this isn't a brand new policy. It was in their 2024 general election manifesto. Now, for me, principally, I think a 10-to-1 ratio sounds pretty based. But practically, how would this work? I mean, it can't be done over the night. Would the implementation of this policy have negative effects? There's a lot of questions that surround it. I think it should be a goal. We should be looking towards 10-to-1 pay ratio for sure. But how was that actually implemented? Would it not be better to have huge tax hikes on the wealthy, raise the minimum wage, and have stronger unions? It will be, a long-term approach to achieving a more appropriate pay disparity than we have now, instead of a policy that, again, could disrupt things negatively. Now, friend of the show, No Justice MTG, made a very good observation. As appealing as the 10-to-1 pay ratio policy is, it's just more intervention into the cure than the prevention. I personally prefer the inclusive ownership fund policy that fixes the root issues of firm ownership whilst not distorting incentives as much. Now, the inclusive ownership fund was proposed by Labour under Jeremy Corbyn. The policy required businesses with over 250 employees to give 1% of shares into a fund. Now, over time, this will be transferred over to the workers. And that is a real socialist policy, whereas a 10-to-1 pay ratio is a social democratic plaster on the economy. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this policy? I mean, it sounds good in terms of tackling inequality, but are there better ways of dealing with it? And do you think some people could be put off that it's a bit too radical for them? We can't hear any audio on your end.
Hello.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
I don't know how I became muted. I didn't press anything. Anyway, right. Let's start that again, shall we? I have no problem with the policy particularly. It's certainly a great deal better than what we currently have, which is essentially my feeling towards a great deal of the Greens policy platform. Whilst it's not perfect, it's a hell of a lot better than what we currently have, so I'm prepared to go with that. And so I'm not going to sort of principally oppose this plan, although again, as Helena pointed out in that tweet, there are better models for this. This is something of a sock dem sticking plaster, but it's a great deal better than what we have. I think I'd prefer to focus on the kind of optics of it, if you will. Now, obviously, you showed that poll where it suggested that nearly 2/3 of people somewhat or strongly support this. But I do have to question some of the findings of that, like the fact that 36% of Reform voters strongly supported the plan, even though it's literally led by it's a one-man party led by an ultimate Thatcherite neoliberal. So I don't quite get what those people are about. Maybe they're just economically socialist but very racist as well. I don't know. Whatever. But as you pointed out, I think that people, if they were asked the question about the force being used, the governmental force implementing this, rather than just as a theoretical proposal, would they support it? And I'm not entirely sure they would. Not because intrinsically they're against it, because as I think you pointed out, economically the people of Britain are relatively left wing, or at least sort of centrist or vaguely progressive. I think the media would be able to run a successful smear campaign at the current time that would essentially Corbynize this thing. They would be able to smear it to the point where people would vote against their own best interests, sort of the ideal. And so, essentially, if there's one thing we can learn from the right wing's rise in recent years, and again, I'm not knowing about the policy of this, but just the practical kind of way in which you win public support and shift the Overton window, is the idea of hiding one's power level. So you have to meet essentially the working class where they're at, rather than where you want them to be, in order to try and bring them to where you want them to be. And so putting something forward that is seen as more radical than is realistically implementable, given the media prism through which all of this gets filtered to the public. I think putting forward this policy, even though, like you say, it's been around for a while, doesn't necessarily work in the current context. I think it would be better to try and gradually introduce this, because we on the left, I think, have failed to understand the idea that if you're going to go down this path of electoral uh, gradual change of reform rather than revolution, or whatever you want to, however you want to describe it, then you have to actually engage in national public discourse. People forget that when Jeremy Corbyn introduced the policy of the government paying for the laying of high speed cable, internet cable in Britain, the media smeared it as broadband communism was the phrase that was used. It was smeared and derided and disgusted. The media ran a horrible campaign against it, but then within 2 years it became government policy because the public got to hear the discussion. The public got to see that this policy was a thing, and they went, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Actually, we want that. That's a thing that needs to happen." And so, eventually, even the Tories had to implement this as a basic policy. Putting things on the agenda and allowing them to be discussed is a lot better than just putting forward the actual proposal that you have, which might seem dishonest, but we're talking about politics here. Hiding your power level is not about dishonesty as such. It's about allowing people the time and space they need to develop in their ideas, right? So putting forward the idea of absolute rent abolition, which is a good policy, right now would be sort of untenable. Whereas if you put in rent controls and curtailment of the power of no fault eviction and things like that, you gradually get introduced to people the concept that the overweening power of the landlord can be challenged. And eventually they begin to realise, oh, actually, this improves my quality of life and those around me. And eventually you can get to the position where absolute abolition of landlordism would be a possibility. And I think the similar process would need to be undergone here. The neoliberalisation of the economy to the point where the supposed freedom to earn as much as you like, which basically comes at the expense of the vast majority of people, has been unquestioned for 40 years within the media and the political establishment, basically, other than under maybe Michael Foot and a little bit under Jeremy Corbyn. But by and large, it's been unchallenged. So people haven't even had the concept that you could say to the wanker bankers of London, no, you don't get to just earn unmitigated amounts of money for fucking over the economy. That isn't even the thing that people have been allowed to think within the zeitgeist. So introducing basic lower level policies to try and get people to the stage where a 10-to-1 ratio or a more worker-based ownership production model would actually be viable, I think is the more effective way of going with this. And especially given that you're putting forward a perspective for government when you're not even fighting a general election yet. You're revealing policy when you don't need to. And so I think that the policy is perfectly fine, but the timing and way in which this has been gone about, I think, is possibly a little bit of an own goal.
I mean, I do have a problem with the policy because again, I have so many questions in how you implement this. Now, again, if it's a goal, if it's like we need to envision an economy where we can reduce levels of inequality, we're going to do it through again like tax rises, stronger collective bargaining specifically.
Yeah.
I'd be on board. So I do have questions about the policy itself, but I do echo a lot of your sentiment when it comes to the rhetoric. Leftists need to hide their power level. In fact, Zoran Mamdani is very good at it. When he's asked about like I was actually watching a clip of him today, and he's a masterful communicator. He was asked, okay, you're a democratic socialist, and that works for progressive New York, but what about a rural red state? And he basically said, he tries to sidestep talking about labels and said, but people agree with me on rent controls. People agree with me on universal childcare. The bread and butter issues. I do wonder, with the Green Party support, knocking on the door, those that have either left Labour for the Greens or in the middle, are they actually looking for something more radical than Labour? Or are they just looking for something that Labour used to be? Because the Greens pitch quite successfully is the Labour Party has abandoned the working class and it's abandoned their progressive ideals. We are actually now the natural Labour base. Yeah. And that seems to work for them. And if they, again, not come out of policies, this is 2024 election policy, when they say something like 10-to-1 pay ratio, you wouldn't hear that from the Labour Party. Is that too much? I don't know. I think actually like Helena's suggestion about Jeremy Corbyn's policy of the inclusive ownership fund. One, it's far more radical, and two, it's a very sort of behind the scenes policy. Like you don't scream that from the top of your voice. You talk about the bread and butter issues, and then you include like post-capitalist policies.
Yeah.
But I think it's far more radical. But I do agree. Like, I think there's a potential problem here. The issue with the 2019 general election and Jeremy Corbyn, that was different from 2017, was that 2017 set a story for the many, not the few, and all the policies were in context with the story and the campaign, the message. And a lot of people in 2019 were saying that it was kind of like a shopping list of policies. It was really strangely communicated with their policies. It was like, we're now doing this, we're now doing that. And obviously I'm like, yeah, great for me. I love this. But as your average person, it became like people didn't believe in it, didn't buy into it. Often progressive policies, you always have to fight against the mainstream media about how it's going to be paid for example. But when it's done in context of a story, it's very powerful. But when it's just there, it's not. So I can almost think this feels a bit 2019 Labour Party.
It does, and ultimately, I think if reformism has any chance in Britain, then whatever the next progressive government would be would have to implement some kind of breakup of the monopolisation of the media. You have to have a much more pluralistic approach to it. When four rich, evil so-and-sos own all of the media, and they're all based in Monaco and they're not even paying any tax, whilst telling you that you should pay more tax so that they don't have to pay tax to pay for the massive armies that they want to make money in the Middle East, etc. That can't work with democracy. And again, I think that to go further than that, capitalism doesn't really work with democracy either. But that's a broader topic for another day, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a breakup of the media monopolies needs to happen. Otherwise, what you have is people with a set of financial incentives that oppose the will of the British people controlling what the British people hear, and that's not a good thing.
Quite correct. Let's move on. An AI company has faced backlash after their billboards were spotted at Bristol Airport. Narwhal Labs, which is a tech firm, displayed dystopian advertising that offers AI employees, yet the specific wording has shocked people. And as you can see here, I mean, it's really dystopian. Obviously, that's pretty much made of AI. It says, she outworks everyone and she'll never ask for a pay rise. Meet your new AI employee. Always on, never sick, and no HR required. There's also another ad featuring a man that says, hello, is it leads you're looking for? Have you got the next graphic 8? Oh, it's not there. Okay. Take that graphic off. Sorry, I must have messed up the script. The billboard read, it had a man on there, and it said, "Hello, is it Leeds? Is it Leeds you're looking for?" Because the guy was styled behind Lionel Richie, and it says he'll find them, call them, and follow up while you sleep. Now, this is an AI tech firm boasting about humans losing their jobs, and I was saying the quiet part out loud. There you go. There it is. So it obviously looks like Lionel Richie. And yeah, this guy can work all around the clock while you sleep. He'll chase up people. So yes, it's an AI tech firm boasting about humans losing their jobs and are saying the quiet part out loud. Humans are annoying because they like a work-life balance, decent wages, and will go to HR. And adding the HR bit specifically on the woman's ad seems pretty disgusting. I mean, I think we can take away the meaning here, even if it's not deliberate. Now, after facing criticism, Narwhal pulled the ad and made a statement on their LinkedIn defending their products. Oh, voice, my teleprompter's playing with me. The thinking behind our Bristol Airport billboards depict people from a wide range of demographics, different genders, background, and identities, and deliberately so, because this was never about one group losing out to another. This is something far broader. Humans versus machines. The impact will not be selective. It will not discriminate, and the debate it has sparked is exactly the one we need. While governments hesitate, the technology is accelerating when as much as 80% of white-collar work is at risk within the decade. Silence is no longer a neutral position. The real reason is not whether AI will replace jobs, it's what we choose to do about it. I've got the second graph up. Sorry. We need legislation. Specifically, we need mandatory transparency. Consumers and employees must have the right to know when they are interacting with an AI, not a person. Transition protections. Businesses deploying AI at scale should be required to invest in reskilling and redeployment for affected workers, a framework for human AI coexistence in the workplace, clear rules on where AI can and cannot replace human roles, particularly in care, education, and public safety. Economic redistribution mechanisms. If AI generates unprecedented productivity gains, the benefits cannot flow exclusively to shareholders. A portion must reach the people it displaces. So, can AI outwork a human? The answer is yes, and in more ways than not. Most are ready to accept. But outperforming someone is not the same as replacing them. This moment is not just about jobs, it is about defining the role of humans in a world where we are no longer the most efficient option and choosing deliberately what must never be replaced. In today's world, consumer expectations are rising, and AI is uniquely equipped to meet them, delivering speed, scale, and consistency that redefine what good looks like. At Narwhal Labs, our mission is to help organizations and meet those expectations responsibly. And to be honest, I think this is just Thatcherite rubbish. They're saying, well, actually, we're going to wait for the productivity gains, and then people are going to get wealthier. That's literally what they're doing. And the idea that, look, we're going towards AI anyway, we're just joining the band. No, AI is a disgusting, I think, devil's technology, and you're part of it. But not only that, these ads push sexist stereotypes. These are stereotypes based on nothing. In fact, men are more likely to call for a pay rise. Sorry, I've gone too far. My teleprompter is playing by itself. Okay. Should have got AI to do this. Let's go on. We need an AI host. Anyway, I'm on graphic 12. Right. So Caroline Pooley, a business development specialist, wrote "Framing an AI tool as a woman who." Sorry. I've lost where I am. Framing an AI tool as a woman who never rests, never asks for more, and simply works harder than everyone else isn't clever. It's echoing an expectation placed on many women to overperform with less recognition, boundaries, and unfair compensation. And Nassi S., a seasoned chief police officer, added, calling it progress while portraying the perfect worker as a silent, compliant woman feels less like innovation and more like regression in disguise. But yes, this is a thing. It's a stereotype which is based on absolutely nonsense. So, first of all, this is like the idea that the man is a go-getter and the woman is a submissive one. Again, bring up that HR line. But yes, they're pushing sexist stereotypes, but these stereotypes are based on nothing. In fact, men are more likely to call for a pay rise. And a YouGov survey of British adults who have held paid jobs find that 46% of men have asked for a pay rise compared with just 33% of women. Now, for capitalism, they want submissive workers. Gender doesn't matter. There's no incentive for a firm to have gender hierarchy. These are human errors. But I wouldn't be surprised if those ads were AI generated. In fact, they obviously are. And all AI does is reinforce stereotypes. And a recent study by Dr. Rohi Khan, research officer in the Department of Gender Studies at the London School of Economics and Politics, she fed ChatGPT 2 identical performance reviews, asking for feedback. The only difference was that one employee was named John and the other Jane. The researcher shares that in her findings, AI marked John as having exceeded expectations and was earmarked for leadership. Meanwhile, Jane met expectations and needed guidance. So, why is AI sexist? Is it because, as I pointed out, the capitalist firm doesn't need to be sexist. It wants submissive workers, regardless of gender. And the reason why ChatGPT and those billboards are sexist is because they learn to be that way. Now, if you search something on ChatGPT, it scours the internet, and mostly the internet holds human written articles and opinions. Therefore, human bias is automatically written into AI. But I don't want to center this just around sexism. The few media outlets who have covered this issue have made this just about gender, yet have said nothing. Where am I? They've said nothing about the capitalist system. It's very sort of liberal, if I'm honest. And they said nothing about the nature of companies wanting workers that can get sick. Sorry. And don't ask for a wage or kick up a fuss. Kevin, are you convinced by Narwhal Labs' explanation on their LinkedIn?
No, not in the slightest. You'll be surprised to hear. I despise AI and everything about it. I think it's a cancerous scourge upon modernity and needs to be done away with. Whatever marginal benefits may be gained, all of the negatives are, I mean, before us in everyday life now. Um, I hate every aspect of this. The it shows, I think, the level of cuckedness that modern people have that have been drilled into them. That these AI tech bro bastards have let them eat cake moments all the time, where they will laugh callously in the face of suffering, where they will see the destruction they have wrought on the world, and actively celebrate it in front of the entire world, and we do nothing about it. Um, it's really pathetic, in all honesty. One sexist aspect that I don't think you touched upon in that is the idea that the woman would go to HR, which I think hints at the idea of workplace sexual aggression. The idea that, well, with an AI person, you don't have to worry about them going to HR. Not that you can't sexually abuse them anymore. No, the boss is always the good person in this scenario because again it's capitalist reinforcing capitalism, and so it's you don't have to pay out compensation to that person you sexually assaulted. It's that sort of deal. And again, it's a reflection. AI, because of its use of algorithms and it's based on human activity and it learns that thing. It's a reflection of the sexism and selfishness of modern society. Um, and so, yeah, these billboards are terrible. Everyone engaged in AI as a business practice is scum, and I fucking hate them. And it needs to be done away with for the good of all mankind. I don't know how much more clear I can be on that.
I fixed my teleprompter. I don't know what happened there. It was just going without me and I couldn't stop it. Sorry, I messed that bit up. Yeah, I mean, look, there is a big sexist element here. And obviously, oh, by the way, the PR thing or the HR thing, that was clearly like about sexual exploitation, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's strange how capitalism doesn't really care too much about sexism in the particular firm. They want everyone to be a robot. They want everyone to have no ambition. But obviously, that billboard was probably written by AI, so it had the human bias written in of sexism.
100%. Also, I hope Lionel Richie sues them. I don't know if he can technically, but I hope he does.
And you should be able to, if someone uses your likeness in AI, and this is another question we've got. I mean, I didn't expect to talk about this, but yeah, Lionel Richie should sue their ass. Is that people can use your likeness, or we're seeing it from people trying to create like copied films. They're trying to say, oh, we don't need actors now. We've got this, and it's really embarrassing. There was that Netflix, the Black Mirror episodes from a few years ago. I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically it was about production companies using actors' likeliness and then just using it for future things, and then the person doesn't get paid for it.
Yeah. Well, exactly, yeah, and I hope Lionel Richie sues you, and I'm glad you agree. Say you, say me, so to speak.
Oh my God.
Come on now.
Dear.
Come on now.
That's 2 for 2.
Thank you.
Okay. I tell you what, we're going to go to our final story because this is the biggest one. But before we move on, it's 2026 and we really want this year to be big for Turn Left. We want to be more ambitious than last year and to really put us on the map. We're, of course, leveling up with having part-time studio with guests coming in person, but we want officially to have our own space and for our contributors to be paid for the work we do. Your support over the years has been amazing, and we are ready to take this to the next level. We rely on small donations, so if you want to be part of a media organisation that seeks to destroy the oligarchs, then please head over to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. There you can support us monthly on Patreon, or there is another link for a one-time contribution. You can also become a YouTube member for 99p. We also have a very, very big announcement on Monday. We're not going to reveal what it is, although those who are in the Discords will know. Maybe that's incentive to join a Discord. But we've got a big announcement on Monday. Make sure you tune in. Final story. Can you smell that? Does it smell like a Keir Starmer resignation in the air? Well, he's doing his best to cling on, but can he survive? A bombshell of a story has dropped. It has been revealed that Peter Mandelson failed security vetting, yet the Foreign Office stepped in and overruled the decision. According to multiple sources, Mandelson was initially denied clearance in late January 2025 after developed vetting process, a highly confidential background check by security officials. Keir Starmer had by then announced he would be making Mandelson the UK's chief diplomat in Washington, posing a dilemma for officials at the Foreign Office, who decided to use a rarely used authority to override the recommendation from security officials. Mandelson's failure to secure vetting approval has not previously been publicly revealed, despite intense scrutiny over his appointment and the release by the government of 147 pages of documents supposed to shed light on the case. Keir Starmer has claimed he had no knowledge of Mandelson failing the clearance, and this is what he said in February.
There was then, I should add, security vetting carried out independently by the security services, which is an intensive exercise that gave him clearance for the role, and you have to go through that before you take up the post. Clearly, both the due diligence and the security vetting need to be looked at again. I've already strengthened the due process. I think we need to look at the security vetting because it now transpires that what was being said was not true. And had I known then what I know now, I'd never have appointed him in the first place.
And this is Sky News basically grilling him and ripping him a new one.
That I wasn't told that Peter Mandelson had failed security vetting when he's appointed is staggering. That I wasn't told that he'd failed security vetting when I was telling Parliament that due process had been followed is unforgivable. Not only was I not told, no minister was told. And I'm absolutely furious about that. What I intend to do is to go to Parliament on Monday to set out all the relevant facts in true transparency so Parliament has the full picture.
Prime Minister, why do you always end up sounding like the passenger in this government rather than the driver? Are you really expecting us to believe that a senior civil servant off his own back, without any sort of direction about the importance of Peter Mandelson being ambassador, unilaterally overruled security vetting to approve a political appointment, and they made clear it was political?
I was not told that he had failed security vetting. No minister was told that he had failed security vetting. Number 10 wasn't told that he had failed security vetting. That is completely unacceptable. That is why I intend to go to Parliament and set out all of the relevant facts so Parliament has full transparency and full accountability. It is totally unacceptable that the Prime Minister making an appointment is not told that security vetting has been failed. Totally unacceptable.
You're almost 2 years in post. Doesn't this just sound like you don't have a grip on your government?
I was not told that security vetting had failed. That is shocking, it is unacceptable, and I intend to set out the full facts to Parliament on Monday.
Now, if Starmer wants to claim he had no knowledge, then he better explain this. So New, the Independent's political editor David Maddox has published messages showing Number 10 was told last September that Peter Mandelson may have failed security vetting. The message reads, "Hi Tim, I've been told by two sources now that Mandelson in fact did not clear vetting with MI6, but the PM pushed his appointment anyway. The problem was China, not Epstein though. Is there any comment on this, David? Vetting done by FCDO in normal way." I mean, regardless, sackings have occurred. Starmer has sacked Foreign Office Permanent Secretary Sir Ollie Robbins. He's the current permanent secretary in the Foreign Office, along with being the department's top civil servant. He was appointed in January 2025. This was the time when the decision about Mandelson was made. Now, is he just a fool guy? Some seem to think so. An anonymous government minister has now called for Keir Starmer to resign. This is a tipping point. There can be no more excuses. We're past apologies, and there cannot be another fool person in the form of Ollie Robbins. The PM must go. Now, interestingly, Robbins spoke before the Commons Committee back in November, where he claims that he acted on Starmer's orders. Sir Ollie Robbins told a Commons Committee it was clear that the Prime Minister wanted to make this appointment himself by the time it came across his desk. In this case, as Sir Chris Womold explained, the Prime Minister took advice and formed a view himself, and we then acted on that view. A couple of weeks earlier, Sir Chris had given testimony to the Public Affairs Committee in which he stressed that civil servants had no veto over the preferred appointee of the Prime Minister. Former ministers and officials expressed disbelief at the notion that Sir Ollie, an experienced career servant, would have made such a decision without telling Number 10. According to National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell, he described the vetting process as weirdly rushed. When the first tranche of Mandelson files was published on March the 11th, including information about government communications about the peers vetting, it emerged that Jonathan Powell, the National Security Advisor, described the process as weirdly rushed. The same tranche of files also showed the former US ambassador was officially informed he had passed developed vetting on January 30th last year. Reports, which have not been disputed by Number 10, indicate that the security services rejected his application in late January before the decision was reversed. But photographs have emerged of Lord Mandelson in Whitehall on January the 15th, in which he can be seen wearing a developed vetting pass around his neck. However, it's this from Bloomberg editor Alex Wickham which throws the narrative on its head. Sources say Ollie Robbins felt bound by the rules of the security vetting process not to tell the PM, Number 10, or the Foreign Secretary about the concerns raised by Mandelson. This means it appears Number 10 were in fact unaware he had issues with his vetting. And sources say, in fact, Mandelson did not simply fail his vetting. Instead, issues were raised and the FCDO security team and ultimately Robbins had to make a decision on whether to grant DV clearance. It was their decision and there was no overturning, sources say. So this contradicts everything else. But this tweet from Wickham is just what anonymous sources are saying. However, Number 10 posted this. So Number 10 has published an email of Keir Starmer's meeting readout on Tuesday night when he was told Peter Mandelson failed vetting. They've also published a template of a UK security vetting decision. Officials ticked the red boxes. And the text is really small, but I'll read it out for you. So it's an excerpt from the email. Cat set out the vetting process involved in UK SV in the Cabinet Office, producing a vetting file which included a recommendation on DV should be granted, which was then passed to the sponsor department, in this case, FCDO. As part of the humble address process, the file had been shared with Cat. On reviewing the file, she had therefore learned that the recommendation from the vetting officer had been that DV should not be granted to Peter Mandelson. There is some discretion for departments to proceed with clearance, and the FCDO had exercised it in this case, granting Mandelson vetting clearance. Cat had not seen the audit trail for this decision, so we did not know, or did not yet know, on what basis the decision had been taken, contrary to the recommendation. The Prime Minister was not aware of any of this before the meeting, including that it was even possible to grant clearance against the advice of UKSV. There is no evidence that the decision to grant DV, despite the UKSV advice, had been disclosed to anyone outside FCDO and the UKSV before the document was shared with CEO to comply with the humble address. Wow. Okay. Lots of information there. We've got contradictory information. We've got sources saying that, the civil servant, not Powell, the other guy got fired, I forget his name, terrible memory, was working on behalf of Keir Starmer, Robbins, thank you. Robbins was working on behalf of Starmer, or either he was pressured into doing it, or that he thought the rules were that, right? And then we've got this information which shows, or apparently shows, that Keir Starmer didn't know anything about it. And I'm just confused. I mean, what does this mean? Does this mean that Keir Starmer didn't know? Fine, but that means he's, incredibly incompetent and he should go. Or he did know, and he did something so unbelievably morally wrong that he should go. Kevin, Again, we've heard apparently evidence from both sides, or two options, right? Number 10 knew, and then Wickham says otherwise. What do you make of this? You're muted. Yeah, we can't hear you again.
Hello?
Yeah, you're back.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Right. Okay. You can cut this bit out on the YouTube, obviously. Make me look good. Anyway, he obviously knew. He really obviously knew. I'm not buying any of the lies, because he has lied about absolutely everything in this story, including having lied about lying, about knowing, about having the information on his desk when he went to Parliament and said that he didn't know. He's just a bullshitter from start to finish. I don't believe a damned word he says. Also, I get the feeling from this story that this is a little bit like not seeing the wood through the trees type deal. That it doesn't matter to me whether he technically followed the specific rules or whether he technically knew that this civil servant had ticked the correct boxes on a piece of paper that said it was technically okay to do blah, blah, blah. He knew full well that Peter Mandelson was the yum-yum friend of noted child sex trafficker and rapist Jeffrey Epstein. And he appointed him to Washington, D.C. to be our ambassador. Okay? It's not just that he did that in spite of it. He did it because of it. Okay? He knew full well that he had a connection to Donald Trump and the rich ring of elite paedophile friends that he keeps in Washington, D.C. This wasn't seen as a drawback to Mandelson's candidacy. It was seen as a positive boon. He was sent there because of this. Keir Starmer is absolutely fine with the child sex trafficking connections that Peter Mandelson has accrued over the course of decades. He doesn't care a jot about it. I don't care whether he technically knew about this, that, or the other, or whether Ollie Robbins did a thing, or whatever. It's all smoke and mirrors nonsense. He wanted and was perfectly fine putting a man that close to the world's most notorious paedophile into the most high-profile diplomatic position that this country has. He did it for politics and nothing else. Let us not pretend that he gets a by saying, oh, technically I followed the rules. This isn't a courtroom. This is the court of public opinion. And they found you guilty, mate. It's over. You need to leave. You are either morally reprehensible, which you are, fantastically incompetent, which you are, or just have absolutely no idea what's going on in your own government and therefore are not fit to be at the head of their affairs during an incredibly difficult moment right now in world affairs, right? Please, for the love of God, Labour Party, do one good thing. Get rid of this absolute cancerous scourge upon our nation. The man is an absolute bullshitter. He lies about everything constantly. He is lying about this. And I'll be honest, I'm just going to huff my own farts for a second here and say this is a Kevindication of what I said when the story broke back in February and he nearly got ousted when it was then. I said he was lying about not knowing about this. I said he was bullshitting and that he was stirring up yet another series of controversies later down the line. Because all he does is cover up one lie with another lie. And then it blows up a few months later because we realise, we get the information, oh, he was lying about that. And now he's telling another lie in saying he didn't know about this. Which means even if he survives now, just after the May elections, we're going to find out, oh no, he did know. He's a bullshitter. He needs to go.
Yeah, I can totally see like the truth comes out after May.
Yeah.
But the idea that Robbins would have taken that decision to be like, right, Peter Mandelson has close proximity with a paedophile. He's failed his vetting. I'm just going to allow him to basically override the decision and not tell the Prime Minister. And even that's the case. Let's say he did that. There was a small team, right? Involved with this. Don't think a single person would have gone to the Prime Minister and like, look, this has happened and I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, are we supposed to believe that Prime Minister Keir Starmer doesn't know that anything goes on in his government? Now, look, I've heard people say, I mean, Lewis Sarans, says that Starmer's a very procedural man. He's an arsehole, but this isn't something he would do because he's so procedural. But I'm like, I don't think he is. I think we've been gaslit into thinking that Keir Starmer is a statesman-like person who really cares about the rules. He's broken so many damn rules.
Well, look, I don't give him the excuses on this. I'm sorry, I just don't. I've had absolutely all of the good faith I could possibly have had for the man eviscerated over the course of years of lies. He was an very high-profile lawyer. If you don't know something, maybe look into it. Mm-hmm. If you didn't know it, that's because you didn't look for it.
Yeah.
You weren't interested. At best, you were uninterested in whether this man was compromised. Because again, another sort of fact that's being lost in this is not only was he compromised in potential compromat on the paedophile links, but also, and this is why he initially failed his clearing, was his connection to the Chinese government. Because he was being paid by a Chinese lobbying firm to do some kind of work, which apparently was legal, but ultimately means that he was, potentially compromised in terms of owing money or owing some kind of favour to a foreign government, which means maybe don't give him access to, sensitive information, because he might use that to pass on sensitive economic documents against the will of the British government, as he'd already done as business minister a decade earlier.
And it was in the Epstein files, isn't it? Did he
so.
pass on specifically to Epstein, though? Was it to somebody
Yeah, no,
else?
he did. No, specifically to
It
Jeffrey
was
Epstein.
specifically to him, yeah. So we've known that he's basically sold state secrets.
Well, I don't even know if it's a matter of selling it or whether it's a matter
Or
of
just giving
scratching
it,
back
yeah.
or whatever. But ultimately, we know that because Alistair Darling, the now late former Chancellor of the Exchequer at the time, literally said that Jeffrey Epstein's friends were so well coached on what the British government's plans were that they were ringing him with an exact script, so much so that by the 5th and 6th time this was happening, he was able to quote back before they said it what they were going to say to them. Because Jeffrey Epstein had been passed links, papers, sensitive papers against the will of the British government to Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein had got his rich friends to then bully the British government to try and not have a tax on wealth, on bankers.
Unbelievable. So
That's treachery, that's espionage. You're giving a foreign citizen private information the British government doesn't want out there. That you're a traitor, yeah. But I'm supposed to care that maybe Ollie Robbins ticked the wrong box or something on a form. I don't give a fuck. I couldn't give a shit about that. It's irrelevant to me. It's irrelevant to the story. You put a person that you knew was unbelievably morally and financially and politically corrupt into the most sensitive position that you can have as a British government, and yet we're supposed to care that he's look, he's angry. What? I'm sorry. What? Keir Starmer's the victim here. Is he? No, he's not. He should leave.
We've heard also, so many.
Just to echo his own words, if you don't like it, Keir, the door's open. You can leave.
And the thing is, though, it's always excuses. It's always blaming someone else. But this is not the only time it's happened. So even if we can go right, specifically this thing, maybe Keir Starmer wasn't completely embroiled in this, but it's happened. So many scandals have happened that I don't know how Keir Starmer, because apparently saying I'm staying to the next general election. Do you not understand, though, that this is a series of scandals? It's not just one, although this is a very big one. A series of scandals, and yet you keep saying, oh, well, it wasn't me, it was someone else in government. Well, the problem is you or your government. Even if it might not be directly attributed to you, you are the Prime Minister.
Yeah,
sort that shit out then.
The Sky News, Sam Coates did a very good piece of journalism, bizarrely, in literally saying, why is it you always appear to be the passenger in this government?
Yeah.
And that's because he is. Literally, the prediction that was made before he became Prime Minister is, I forget who it was who made the analogy, that he was like one of those kids in those fake vehicles you get outside of a supermarket and you put 50p in.
Matt Zarb cousin.
And they just ride back and forth and they turn the wheel and they pretend they're driving. That's him. That's literally Keir Starmer, right?
Yeah.
In which case you shouldn't be Prime Minister. You're not fit for the position. You're unsuited and unqualified for this position. And he should leave immediately and all the rest of it. But also, this is the exact pattern of blaming somebody else. It wasn't his fault, it was Morgan McSweeney's fault. But not only does he blame them and they get the chop, but you don't even replace them with a new person. You replace them with their underling who was trained by that person. So they're going to do the same thing. Yeah. And this precise thing has happened now. Robbins is gone. Who's replaced him? His deputy. So nothing changes then. It's the deputy that also didn't tell you the information, apparently. Also, you know who would be the temporary Prime Minister if he were to stand down, say, tonight, in lieu of him, would be the Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, who, at the time this took place, was the Foreign Secretary, who should have told him. So he was the head of the department that didn't do this, apparently. It's bollocks, anyway.
You could not make it up. You couldn't make it up.
It's a government of the blind leading the blind to be replaced by the even more blind.
So, look, do you think Starmer will go? And I think, especially after the expected poor showing in the local elections, do you think he'll actually go, or is he going to do what he always does and seems to hang on?
Well, we're hearing rumblings that there are people in the cabinet who, at least off the record right now, are saying he has to go. it kind of matters if he survives the weekend. He then has to survive Monday because he's going to go before Parliament, and they're going to
Yeah.
declare him a new one, obviously. Because the obvious thing to point out, and I think you mentioned it, was that it was reported in the British press, and indeed we saw the text between the government and one journalist. That it was reported in September. Openly, not in private, in newspapers, that he'd failed his vetting. Now, again, those were rumours at the time, but you would think you might want to look into those rumours. Because if I know that he's failed his vetting, how did you not know as Prime Minister? Are you that unaware of your surroundings? In which case, maybe you should leave because you're not fit for that position. You know, like, it doesn't matter which way you look at it. He's either too incompetent to be Prime Minister, too evil to be Prime Minister, or not hard-working enough to be Prime Minister. Take your pick. It doesn't matter. He doesn't deserve to be Prime Minister.
And all those are not good attributes.
No, either way, it doesn't matter what their defence is. Their defence means he is unsuitable for the role he currently has. Now, does the Labour Party have frankly, the backbone and the balls to do this? I'm not sure. Wes Streeting is certainly ambitious enough to give it a bash. I'm sure Yvette Cooper might want to look at it. There are a few people who might want to take a roll of the dice. But whether they want to do that before May, knowing how bad those results are going to be, and let's be honest, this story is not making that situation any better, I don't know that they would want to do that. But then morally, how can they stand by and support until May, so for maybe another month, a government led by a guy actively helped a paedophile's best friend to become ambassador to the United States? It's, it's sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't, from their careerist perspective. But either way, I'm not a careerist and I'm not in Parliament, so I can happily say, please leave, Mr. Starmer. You are absolutely unsuitable, morally, politically, and just practically for that position.
Look, we were on the same page, right? We all made the correct prediction, which is that before the election, Keir Starmer's going to be incompetent.
Yeah,
he's going to be, and there was nothing. Just because we're told the adults in the room doesn't mean the adults in the room. So we predicted this. I just don't know if I predicted how bad he was going to be. I genuinely think this is so bad. I did not think he could fuck up this bad.
Well, I don't know what it is necessarily, but I thought the people behind him would be like competent enough that they would be able to keep it on the straight and narrow. I did not see it falling off a cliff as soon as they got in. But their political instincts are so weak because they didn't expect to be in government. All they were there to do, all the Labour Together project is purging the left. That's all it ever was. So when they actually get into government and do anything, they had no plans. So their first instinct was, let's freeze Granny.
Yeah.
And it's been downhill ever since because they lost control of the narrative straight away. They had no plans anywhere. And all of this smoke and mirrors about how they're turning the corner and people are going to feel the benefit of their policies. No, they're not, because your policies are shit. Your policies are bad and will lead to bad outcomes for the British public. So, no, they're not going to feel the benefit of that. No, they're not helped by factors outside of their control, like the war in Iran, which is Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu's little freak monster mutant baby. So they're not helped by that. But either way, even without that, it was still going to be bad. And no one wants the policies you're giving. You promised change. And the thing you have changed is the rosette of corruption from blue to red. That's not what people were after, really, Keith.
It's not. Summed up, Starmer's government beautifully summed up by Kevin. I think this is a good time to get to our comments. I know you guys are itching to say something, and we can do some more Starmer dunking if you like. Let's bring in our producer, Callum Taylor. Callum, you okay? I hear noise in the background. There we go.
Hello. Yeah, how is everybody? Great show as always. Let me just have a look. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
No, I can't hear you. No.
Kev says can't hear you.
I'm joking.
Brilliant.
I'm joking.
Kev's
Don't do that to us. We've had a fucking week of it. I tell ya.
No, I was just playing because every time I went to speak, you went, "You're muted."
But you were muted though.
Well, I was, to be fair.
You were actually muted.
You were actually muted.
So I saw this one, which made me laugh, and I'll do this, and then we'll go to the super chats, and then we'll come back to the rest of the comments. But just Kev there quoting, Keir Starmer's comments about the fact that the door is open, you can leave. As Deus Ex Ollie said, Carl left the door open for him, which I did.
No,
That's
to be
a
fair,
joke you might
I-
not have got though.
I do have to be absolutely honest and say the noted producer on this show, Ben McLean, was the one who told me that joke, and I stole it. But I did tell him I would steal it. But I just want to give
Ah,
the
that's
full
interesting
credit,
because
full
he made a
credit.
meme of that and he
Oh,
sent
did
me
he?
the meme. So it originated from Ben. So you've been
Yeah.
stealing content from Turn Left.
Well, no, he came
Wait,
to
about
me
me
in a
leaving doors open?
No, about the door is open, you can leave thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I'm not. Oh, he came to me in a private capacity, not as an employee at Turn Left. So technically, I was just stealing it from a friend rather than from your organisation. And legally, I think I've covered myself there.
No, what Ollie was saying is Cal left the door open for him because, you know the story. Owen Jones
Kev
did a
knows the
vox pop.
story.
Yes.
Owen Jones did a vox pop, and that woman was like, "Oh, you gonna vote? Who you gonna vote for?" She's like, "I was to be Green, but now not any longer because the Green entourage came to this cafe and left a door open." And obviously he laughed because it's like that's not a logical reason. I mean, also it turns out it wasn't the Green Party entourage; it was our very own Callum Taylor who was filming a documentary, and you left the door open, and you lost a potential Green Party voter.
I've
Hang your head
seen
in
things like
shame.
that before. I had a neighbour once who said that he used to vote Tory until the Tory came around to his house and left his gate open.
Oh, leaving gates open on campaigns is the worst. But if you're out campaigning for any political party,
Make
at the
sure you shut
moment,
the gate.
Make sure you shut the gate and take it from someone that left the door open. No, it made me laugh. If you didn't know that's what that was about. But it's been a great show. We've had a lot of super chats from you guys, so we'll start by going through those. So Michael gifted 1 Turn Left membership. Thank you, Michael. That went to Doc Davies, so thank you for that. Jeremy Beadle fan is in.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
And
Bring this chap on more.
sent us £10.
Fuck's
I live a
sake.
nightmare.
Thank you, Jeremy Beadle fan. Appreciate it.
Wait, is that it's good?
that all, yeah, that's you and me both as Jeremy Beadle, I believe. But yeah, this all came as a joke. We were talking about the grave of Karl Marx. You know, he's buried in Highgate Cemetery in London, right?
Oh, where Corbyn took Diane Abbott on his date.
Yeah, I like to think that my headcanon is that they fucked at his tomb. You know what I mean? Like you would, wouldn't you? You know.
Thanks for that image. That's not an image I wanted.
He was just grabbing the means of reproduction. That's all.
Oh, that's a good one.
Anyway, no, he's buried there, right? And I said, I just happened to mention, apropos of nothing, loads of famous people are buried there, right? And so we looked into it, and one of the famous people was Jeremy Beadle. And I just jokingly went, oh, I didn't even know he was dead or whatever, right? Because I didn't. And my fans, like most of my people, like American or from Europe or whatever, and so they were like, oh, we don't even know who this is. And so I showed them like a clip of it, and some dickhead said, you look like him, and stupidly I reacted.
Well, thank you, Jeremy Beadle fan, for the £10 super chat.
Oh, online people can be so cruel.
And we will bring this chap.
I am being bullied. I'm being bullied. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but-
I mean,
but
I
they're-
would
but
feel
they're
bad,
paying to-
but
they're paying to bully you. So
I would feel bad, but they just dropped the tenner on us. So I'm like, I don't feel that bad.
Okay,
anyway.
you take your blood money. That's fine.
Well, I will.
Yuri Gibson has gifted 5 Turn Left memberships. Thank you very much for that.
See, and they did it without any slander or abuse at all.
just give him a
Well
chance.
done
though.
to you, Rory. Love it.
And Len McBain has gifted 10
What the?
10 Left memberships. Thank you, Len.
Who am I mixed with there?
I don't know. Is that Pete Hegseth or something? I don't know.
Len, you're a fucking menace.
I can't.
But
I
thank you for the
I
10
can't-
Turn
I
Left
can't
memberships.
tell. I'm
but
looking there. I can't.
I
tell.
thought when it was small, I thought it was just me, but it's bigger now, and I
No, it's
don't know
you
who it
mixed with
is.
somebody. And obviously, Deus Ex Ollie said before as well about our big announcement on Monday that the big announcement is the identity of Len McBain. It's not.
No,
but that'll be
No,
great.
even we don't have privy to that information.
If Len
you know.
wants to disclose their identity, then
So you're pulling a Starmer. You weren't told. Okay. No,
Yeah, we weren't
we
told.
Yeah, we
Literally.
didn't know. Len McBain then also donated a £5 super chat on behalf of Azami123.
Oh no, you're a mentalist, Len. You've mixed it with me.
Oh, that's
sick,
us too.
You sick bastard.
We look
There's
quite
something wrong
handsome,
with
to
you.
be fair.
That's funny.
I'm glad you kept my hair though, because I do prefer my hair. No offense, but you can grow longer facial hair.
Well, to be fair, you actually do things with your hair, and I don't.
Wow, I've just made it.
I haven't. Have you seen it? It's like a fucking mop. I've done nothing for it for ages now. I'm growing it out.
That's
But-
actually.
But also, Len, thank you for the £5 super chat.
But
Yeah.
your hair has seen a comb, if nothing else. You've got one up on me.
But that's on behalf of Azami123. Is that a clue to Len's identity?
Hmm.
I'm onto you, Azami. I'm watching.
Yeah.
Antifa Vegan Boy gifted 10 left memberships.
Thank you so
for
much.
those. And as we go down the list, Len McBain again, another £2 super chat. The big announcement is Ben McLean is back. Question mark.
He didn't leave, but yeah.
I was about to say, I wasn't aware that he had. Oh,
He's
God.
not gone anywhere.
We've got like what's it called? Fan fiction of Turn Left in the chat. They just make up shit now, and it's just like, yeah. But you can have your fan fiction if you keep donating.
Or maybe
How's
Len
that?
just has like object permanence problems, and like Ben hasn't been on the show for a few days, so he's
He's
just
like, does he
forgotten
not
that he ever
exist?
worked here. Yeah.
Peekaboo. Where are you? Where's Ben? There you are.
Ah, he's stolen my nose!
Ah, shit.
Nirian has sent a £10 super chat. Thank
Thank
you. Nirian. Quotes, no, Keir Starmer isn't a liar. He's just utterly incompetent.
Exactly. It doesn't matter which defence you pick. He cannot stay. Otherwise, the Labour Party just reveals the absolute fucking contempt it has for the public, thinking that we're stupid enough to believe, like, oh, my phone was stolen and I wasn't told, and the dog ate my homework, and my girlfriend goes to a different school. You didn't even know her. Like, it's just rubbish. Look, it's insulting. It's insulting how bad they are at being corrupt. How incompetently corrupt they are.
We'll talk about that more in a moment. SWALX just became a member as well. So,
welcome.
Thank you very much for that. I will double check again before we go, just in case we get any more. That's not a hint, by the way. You don't have to, but we do appreciate all the support that we get. So let me have a look. We've done that one already. Paul Oldspice, right at the beginning of the show, has said this. I want Curtis's t-shirt, not that actual one. It wouldn't fit me.
Wow.
Well, thanks
Watch
for that,
his
Paul.
space.
Come back.
Yeah, come back Monday.
Scottish Soul has said, people are scared of radical because a lot of radical decisions have been awful and or smokescreens. Seeing a group like the Greens actually showing their work is boggling minds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing. I mean, obviously, I would say this, wouldn't I? I'm biased, but that's one thing that I think the Greens are doing particularly well that Zach is doing particularly well at, which is, amongst other things, communicating policy and not wobbling on it. And when the media are going on the attack and they're saying, well, this is ridiculous, this is this, he's just like, well, yeah, this is actually our policy, and actually we should probably go further. You know, we saw it with the candidate in Scotland that talks about, you know, abolishing the current prison system, and that became abolish all prisons. And we've seen it with the drugs policy as well, and the way that the media have attacked that. But actually what the Greens are doing at the moment is they're just, you know, rather than doing the politician thing of, oh, well, actually, maybe it could be interpreted like this, or maybe it means it. They're just like, yeah, no, that is our policy, but actually, we want to go even further. But this is why it works. This is why we like it. And yeah, you know, the 10-to-1 thing, not everyone agrees with that. I know, you know, you both discussed it, and Curtis, you've got some doubts about it as well, and in practice. But as a, you know, as something to aim for, you know, at least they can explain, you know, why they think it's a good idea, even if people disagree with it, which a lot of politicians have trouble doing.
I mean, I definitely want that conversation happening, though. I want to talk about the fact that I think it's not just a CEO earns 124 times the average, but it's like something like 250 times the lowest paid worker, which is obscene. And again, when we look at in 1968, it was around 30-1. I want to have that conversation about the gross levels of inequality. And I think that's a very good way of showing it. Of course, we can say, look at all the multimillionaires and billionaires. I think that seems more abstract to people. But when you say this is how much people are earning in relation to the average person on this day or this year, and this is what it's like now, it's exploded. So I absolutely want. I mean, I have no issue with someone saying the highest paid worker should not be getting paid more than 10 times the lowest paid worker. Like, I think that should be the conversation. Absolutely. Practicality, I don't understand. I'm not sure about the policy, but yes, I think it's probably in some way good. Once again, maybe moving the Overton window, just like how Rupert Lowe wants to continue to talk about remigration. He's trying to pull the window that way. It doesn't cut it just to be like, oh, well, we're going to be milquetoast leftists. We've got to drag it the other way, and maybe this is one way of doing it. Well, obviously remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And I think it's worth pointing out things like, in that tweet you showed as part of the clips, that you're expecting a CEO to only work for £120 an hour or whatever it was, and someone did the maths on that and worked out, and it was like £250,000 a year.
Yeah. So I expect to earn less than that.
Yeah, that's 250 grand a year. Yeah, count yourself lucky that you're not, my friend Gil has some things to say. Like, earning 250 grand a year is a lot of money, actually, and rather puts into perspective how greedy and grasping and money grubbing these bastards are.
And also, if you're earning more than £80,000 a year, you're in the top 5% of the country.
Yeah.
Why are you simping for these people? It's the kind of like when you say tax the rich, people on 30 grand a year. Like, what? How dare you?
Because people all think that it's gonna come.
But this is the lack of class consciousness in this country, is that people have too much of an affiliation with their boss, especially small or medium-sized firms where the boss throws them a fucking pizza party or go golfing with them. You have that feeling of loyalty and allegiance.
Yeah.
And because, again, the lack of class consciousness in this country means that, like, don't hurt my boss, but ultimately your boss doesn't give a fuck about you. He may throw you a pizza party, but guess what? He won't pay you more.
Yeah,
unless you really, really, in the rare instance where he pays you more willy-nilly, or you collectively bargain for it.
Yeah. There's a lot of bootlickers, yeah.
Well, sort of kind of on this point, Graham said, I used to work for a small privately owned tech company that was just bought by American company Genius Sport for $1.2 billion. Almost all of that went in my CEO's
There
pockets.
you go. Exactly. Like corporate mergers, often corporate mergers, you get wages get doxed and people lose their jobs in these instances. But the CEOs make fucking loads of money.
I suppose in practice, that's what the 10-to-1 thing could, if it was enshrined in law, could prevent, because if the law stated that when these mergers or these sales or whatever happens, that the CEO can only earn 10 times the amount, it forces them to either pay less for the company, or it forces them to spread that money out in bonuses amongst all of their staff in a way that's much more equal. So in a sale like this, yeah, the CEO will be still very well off, but every single member of staff in that company would also get a nice little bonus payout for the sale as well.
Well, there was, I think it was in the 2017 or 2019 manifesto, Jeremy Corbyn's Labour manifesto, and they said
you mean
they're only going to. Yes, I was on the front page. They were basically going to give government contracts to companies that had a 20-to-1 ratio or less, and that makes sense, right? That's a doable policy. Like, right, we're not going to award you contracts because you're earning 300 times the lowest paid worker. We're going to give it to 20-to-1 firms, which I thought was quite a good one, an easy one to do.
Well, another tweet you showed in the package was sports like football and fucking rugby or whatever are going to get ruined. I don't give a fuck. What? I like football. I like sport, but I don't give a fuck about if these rich bastards leave. Fine. We'll go back to the way football was for the first 150 years of its existence, where they were earning a fucking pittance, and everyone was fine with that. It worked really well and successfully.
Everyone disagrees with the corporatization of football. Everyone hates it, right? We want more money in grassroots football. What was that thing that happened a few years ago? We were going to have a Super League. Do you remember the name of it?
Yeah, the European Super League.
The European Super League, and it was like it was basically just proper yank nonsense. And everyone was like, fuck this. So no one likes the commercialization and corporatization or just, well, capitalization of football.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great way to have a conversation about that. But again, it's a lot of these people are Twitter bootlickers,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. Literally used to, when my father was growing up, the football players would travel to the game on the bus with the fans, and that was
Isn't that
fine.
great?
That worked fine. They were embedded in communities.
Well, if you're
and it mattered to people.
if you're the Liverpool women's team, you still travel in the normal seats. I sat with them on an aeroplane back from Munich once. Men's team would never do that, of course, but yeah, it's yeah. Let's move on. Michael has said on Twitch, I still think we can win. I still think we can win a lot of reform voters if they were to use proper independent media and facts, not mainstream media and YouTube creators who use feelings to twist stuff. Which I just thought was an interesting observation.
Maybe, but I mean, how do you get them to not use the MSM and stuff? Like the reform voters are a weird coalition of people, because I think in the poll that we showed, 36% of reform voters strongly support the 10-to-1 thing. That's mad. Literally, he's an arch fucking Thatcherite. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you vote for him then? I don't get it.
I can, again, like the average voter can really really complicate things, because you might think, well, it's a Thatcherite party, why would you vote for a Thatcherite party? People often vote against their own interests, right? People aren't particularly, I mean, they might like Thatcher as a politician, or half the country does, whatever.
No, but
people don't like Thatcherism, but it doesn't mean that, like, I do think there are economically left-wing reform voters out there, and I actually believe that statistic of 36% saying that.
It's possible, but like, I'm not even talking just about voting against your interest, but voting against your belief. Like, I understand if you are an indoctrinated conservatoid who's just poor, you're voting against your interests, but you do actually believe this shit. Whereas if you believe a thing that is obviously counter to the entire thrust of the economics of the party you're voting for, why would you vote for them? I don't get it, but I mean, that trying to look into the mind and heart of people who vote for people like Trump or Farage is a fool's errand at times.
True.
Actual Intrepid has said, exactly, the media smears all good policies because they represent moneyed interests who have the most to lose from said policies. I mean, we saw the same thing happen when Corbyn was leader of Labour, didn't we? Where, you know, any remotely progressive policy that actually benefits normal working people, you know, like you mentioned it earlier, Kev, with broadband communism, for God's sake. Like, and just think for a moment how useful free broadband would have been during 2020 when everyone was in lockdown. In 2021,
well, everybody supported it afterwards. Everyone was like, why haven't we done this? And it's like, the man, Jeremy Corbyn, literally said it months before.
Well, honestly, it's not Kevindication, it's Corbyndication.
Corbyndication. He's also right.
He was. There's never been a person more vindicated, and yet he's so bizarre that he's now done. He's gamekeeper turned hunter, in that he's now the one doing the trot hunting from his own party. Okay.
You know what? In Corbyn's defence, I don't think it's him. I think it's the people around him. I think it's Carrie Murphy.
Stop it. People do this with fucking Starmer as well.
His problem.
He is a grown man. He's a political leader. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
No, I agree. He isn't the Messiah, and his problem, Kev, is that he hasn't got a big enough pair of balls to actually turn around to the people around him, see what they're doing, and tell them to do one. I will say that much.
True, but one of those people is his wife, so he doesn't really have a lot of choice.
I mean, yeah. But let's not get into a row about Jeremy Corbyn and your party. Although I think we've talked about the fact that or maybe we haven't, about the fact the entire Scottish executive all resigned in one day. But
is that a good sign? Is that a sign of a solid party that's going good places?
Yeah, it's going places. You know.
Definitely. Just on the AI point, another comment from Michael. This all began with self-service at the bloody supermarket when people allowed that. I'll never forget when I moved out of my university accommodation. I had back in 2017, something like that.
Oh, you young bastard! Oh, it's sickening. Oh, I was a student that recently.
Yeah, 2017. I mean, we're nearly going back 10 years. It still seems like a while, but I temporarily stayed with friends. I was sort of sleeping on a spare bedroom on the house for about 6 weeks in between properties, and I had a load of stuff to buy for the new house I was going to be moving into, and it was on moving day as I was moving out of where I'd been moving into this new house, getting everything moved across, and it got to about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and I needed to go out and do like a big shop and get a load of stuff for the house, and I went to Asda. Other supermarkets are available, and I spent a load of money, filled a trolley up, got to the checkouts, and none of them were open. The only one, and this was before they didn't have the big like trolley self checkouts where they've got like
Yeah.
This was like one of the tiny like basket self checkouts, and it was all they had, and it was always open. And I said to a member of staff, I said, look, I'm not being funny, but I've got an entire trolley full of stuff. Can we open a checkout or something? And they're like, no, you've got to use this. And I had to hand scan and go through and self-serve an entire trolley full of stuff after I'd spent all day trying to move. It was the most stressful day of my life, at the time anyway, with the move and everything else that was going on. It was late at night, and it just made me so fucking angry. And I have hated self-service ever since. But
Can I just highlight this one though?
It has only gotten worse. Go on.
There is a use for it though. Read out this one from Autumn Leaves.
So Autumn has said, love self-service. I add caramel to my Costa coffee and put it through as a regular latte. Self-service, can't tell the difference. Very true.
That's amateur stuff, right? I mean,
I
you can
accidentally-
get for a lot more. You can get away with a lot of shit.
I accidentally got an extra BLT from Max and Spencer's when I was touring once because I thought it scanned on the self-service, but it hadn't. But
So you're a thief. Okay.
no, I thought it had scanned, but it
That's
hadn't.
fine. That's fine.
But
you know
Michael
what? You know
was
what?
right
I
there
felt.
about his
You know
point,
what?
though.
I actually felt so guilty about it. I rang customer services up to confess, and they told me not to worry about it.
Did you actually? Oh, come on,
You fucking nerd! Oh my
nerd!
I actually
Oh
did.
shit! Do you know what I used to do? I used to
It's like I checked my
used to put
receipt and
through-
it's missing. They're like, "Oh, it's a sandwich. It's fine."
I used to put through pick a mix as like oranges, and it's I get like £6-7
that-
worth of pick a
does
mix
that-
and stick through.
Does that count as your one of your 5 a day if you do it that?
I mean, it does, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if it's like a fizzy cherry or like one of the banana sweets, then I suppose it's fruit anyway.
Yeah,
isn't it?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so I didn't do anything wrong. It was fruit.
to the point that Michael was making, yes, it has started with that, and I think unfortunately, at the time, a lot of people were accused of being, a little bit crazy, like, oh, they're replacing your jobs. They
are.
But actually now, if you go into a 24-hour supermarket after a certain time of night, there is nobody on the checkouts. Nobody.
Well, I have to say, I am one of my proudest moments or achievements as a socialist is that I'm an old man now who has never used a self-service checkout from a point of principle. I won't do it.
You've never used one.
I try not to.
No, I've never will, and I never will.
I almost can't.
I've on a couple of occasions I've left a basket of food and just gone, no, I'll leave then. No, I'm not doing
I mean,
it.
my supermarket, you almost can't. You almost pretty much have to because the queues are massive for the belt thing, and they pretty much usher you towards the self checkout. But yeah, the self checkout is the original sort of AI replacement thing. I mean, I know that one of my old works, they, even if they have enough member of staff to serve on till, they make sure that that you use self checkout. So like if there's a member of staff available to serve on the till, they'll say, go to the customer and then tell them to use the self checkout. And then if they need help, you help them. And I'm thinking, why, when you could just serve just like right there? But obviously they're trying to normalize it. And this is a clothing shop, right? Self checkouts are a bit less common in clothing shops. It happens a lot in H&M, I think. Obviously more in supermarkets. But yeah, the old work I used to work for, I don't want to say the name, but River Island. They're like, you can be on the you can be on the till, and the customer comes up to you, and instead of just serving them, you're supposed to go, okay, come with me, go to the self checkout, and then you tell them just to do it, and then if they get stuck, you help them. That's it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we've got more on this. So SWALX again. I hate how AI has been kind of ruined. There are some elements of AI that are actually good, but the AI of the last 4 years has made it so difficult to advocate for the better types in grassroots spaces.
Well, that's what I mean.
Just with that, sorry, Actual
go on.
Intrepid's also just put AI is only good for two things: games AI and in scientific uses.
I think that it's become so corrupted that I don't think there's much you can do with it. I think it's too open in
Yeah,
a
I
capitalist world to corruption and financial greed and corruption and data mining and all the rest of it. That I just think whatever marginal gains there are in certain areas, like you say, in scientific data sifting and all the rest of it, that I think the damage it's doing to society, and at a time when we should be reducing energy consumption, it's massively increasing energy consumption. I just don't think it's a worthwhile endeavour. In all honesty, I think we'd be better off if it didn't exist.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, with the absence of socialism, you can't. I mean that Narhol firm when in the excuses they were like, what we have to do is make sure all the productivity gains from AI goes to its workers. And I'm like, oh my fucking God, we've had massive productivity gains through neoliberalism and the fact that companies and CEOs are making more than ever and the wealth just trickles to the top. It doesn't trickle down. You think, what? Like, because there's even more wealth unleashed to the rich, it's going to mean that the rest of us are going to get richer? Well, absolutely not. We either, to be honest, we either completely outright ban AI or we have fucking socialism where the people, ordinary people, control AI. There is no third way here. Yeah. There is literally no third way. Well, you cannot convince me.
Looking at it from a historical perspective, it reminds me a lot of the Industrial Revolution as well, in the technology that should have been used for the freeing up of human life.
Yes.
That should have meant that we should only have had to have worked half the work week we previously had done, because we had all these labour-saving devices and huge scales of production. That means that instead of having to need 20 people to do it, you only need 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that should mean that everyone works a quarter of the time then, because it's 4 times more efficient or whatever. But it didn't. It just meant that people got kicked out of their jobs. It just meant people were even more destitute people were left absolutely homeless, vagabonds, detritus to the wind, and that's exactly what I see happening now. For all of Narwhal's nice-sounding words, which may well have been juiced by AI, who knows? The gains of productivity will not go to the workers. The gains of productivity will go to Palantir and to fucking Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and various other gobshites, technocratic freaks, all of them. And your average person will just be put out of work. And they may be ameliorated with some sort of UBI scheme to keep them alive, but never more than just alive.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, look, the gains will only go to those who control where the gains go. And currently, under capitalism, the few at the top control where everything goes. So where do you think it's going to go? In order for the working class to reap the fruits of their labor, it's not simply just for a government to be like, okay, we're going to redistribute wealth. Although, yes, that's good. We should vote for that. It's certainly not going to be for the capitalist class who go, oh, no, maybe we're going to help now. It is for the working class to decide. But in order to do that, we have to have the working class having power. And I don't mean just embolden power through governments. We mean give working class people the power, which is through a democratic economy, i.e. socialism. All roads do lead to socialism. It does. The godfather of fucking AI literally says it. All roads lead to socialism.
Yeah. Although your salute there turned a bit Elon Musk.
Oh, it did, didn't it? Sorry.
Yeah.
It should be like...
Yeah, no, definitely don't do that one. Autumn said, just on the AI point, subscribe to Turn Left so we can get Lionel Richie on and get his thoughts.
We'll have to use an AI mock-up of him.
No, we honestly will not.
No, we won't be doing that.
Honestly, I would celebrate so much I'd be dancing on the ceiling.
No, fuck off, Kev. You've had to. 3 strikes, you're out.
Enough, both of you.
Enough.
SWALX, I apologise to everyone else. There's been lots of great comments today. SW's just clearly caught my attention a couple of times tonight, saying Starmer is a liar and has no other ethics other than his own political career. The work he has done in the past should not have led to him, to this place if he actually had values. Thoughts on that one? I mean, we know how he pretended to be a socialist for 2 years to
Yeah,
get elected.
he's essentially a robot. Like the thing that came across in that Sky interview is the thing that always comes across is that he doesn't answer the question. He gives the like it literally doesn't matter what question you ask him. He was going to say, "I'm angry that they haven't given me the information. I'm going to speak to Parliament." Literally, he could have said, "What time's the bus coming?"
You
And
won't
he'd have
get a
given that
fucking
same
answer.
How long does it take to boil an egg? He'd have just said the exact same thing. It's irrelevant what question you ask
Well-
him. He's going to answer the question based upon the thing they already decided he was going to say.
Well, as I set out earlier, to boil an egg, it's a really strong process.
No, that would be to actually address the question. He literally doesn't matter. Like the person asking the question is irrelevant. Okay, he's just going to say, I plan to speak before Parliament on Monday. I'm really angry that I was never told about this." That's literally all he was ever going to say, regardless of what was being asked by whom at what time. He's just going to say the same.
We are going to deliver our strong economy.
We're
strong
turning
economy.
the corner, and we're going to you're going to reap the benefits of the sustained growth and economic and no more sticking plaster politics, the student politics, adults in the room, very sensible. Beep boop. That's it. That's all he is. He's a pre-programmed shit robot. Also, I just want to say I nearly died laughing when you said "poo well" instead of "Powell."
Oh yeah, I was like, what? I was so fucking distracted by the teleprompter thing, and my mind went.
I was so honestly, I had to mute myself. That's probably why I was muted.
That's probably why.
Yeah, because you said, and I just. It's like those. It's like laughing at a funeral. Once you've started laughing,
Yeah.
you can't stop yourself. And I was just like, "Oh God, he's going to come to me, and I'm going to be
Maybe
crying."
maybe we should just call him Pewell from now on.
Yeah, poo well. Was that the original name for the toilet? I wonder. I don't know.
Very good, very good. That's a good joke. You can have that one. Yeah, the other two were fucking shite, but
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Flow Snake has asked, can I just poll some opinions in the chat here? When people lower down the chain, withhold information from a leader, if that's what they did, what does that tell you about the leader?
I
I think you perfectly described that.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's clearly a problem with the culture in number 10, isn't there? It's either he knew and he's lying, or he didn't know, which means he's a fucking shit leader that nobody wants to trust with this information for fear of what he might do if he finds out. In which case he's not competent to do the job and should be sacked anyway. Like there's no way that he can really get around this. Although, as Michael said, he has to hold on to local elections. That's all. And this is what's happening now. I thought that Starmer was gone after the last time the Mandelson thing kicked off. He has to go this time around. I think there is still. I think it was Lewis Goodall had tweeted something where he said there was something like there's three options here. He either knew and he's lying, he didn't know and he's just incompetent, therefore he has to go, or there's something else that's gone on that we still don't know about that's going to come out. And I think there's still an element of that, and I think the final blow will come conveniently after the May elections.
Yeah,
there will be somebody within the Labour Party who has something on him, who is about this story, who is waiting until after May to be the final nail in the coffin, to spare the blushes of whoever the next Prime Minister may be, of having to deal with the fallout from the May elections.
Yeah, that was the problem with it happening in February. They were never going to get rid of a leader just before suffering the worst set of election results they've had in 50 years, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, why would anyone take over today, knowing that in a fortnight or whatever, they're going to have a really pathetic showing?
I mean, I don't know who would want to take over afterwards anyway, to be completely honest.
Well, no, but at least, at least they don't get blamed for that. They're probably still, whoever takes over is going to lose the next election really badly. But you might be able to sort of begin to turn it around, or at least mitigate some of it and survive. Like, basically do a kind of a William Hague job with the Conservatives of, like, he didn't save them, but he kept them alive, if that makes sense. They were able to survive as a political entity, as an ongoing concern, rather than necessarily ever winning an election or looking particularly close to it either.
I mean, Paul said what I mentioned earlier. Starmer pretended to be left-wing during the leadership campaign, then turned around and expelled Corbyn, the ultimate lie. That's sort of it from what I've got here. We've got.
I think there's one more super chat though.
I'm going to go back to those in a moment. Let me just have a look at this one. Daly and Haynes said, I'm going to have to start setting an alarm for turn left. I always forget. Sorry, comrades. Happy Friday, though. I couldn't help
That's right.
read.
We're never on time anyway.
Well, I was going to say, I couldn't help but read it and think we could do with one as well.
The thing is, though, we're all like here early, and then something decides to go, oh, let's fucking go wrong, shall we?
And then Scottish Soul has said, I love seeing Curtis and Kev on the show together. They have such great natural.
Yeah, we love it, don't we?
We do.
King Kev.
We do.
Double salutes.
Double salutes.
Super chats. There's a couple actually. So Paul Fletcher has said with Starmer, with the £5 super chat, thank you for that. If it's a shit show on the periphery, then without exception, it gets progressively worse the closer you get to the centre.
Yeah.
Well, it's not just it's not just a shit show. It's the point I made about the lies upon lies. He's lying now, so he's just storing up problems for the future. Because again, he lies to cover up his previous lie, which then gets
He has to lie,
and he has to lie
future,
again and again and again. Whereas the old adage about if you don't tell lies, you don't have to remember which lie you told. You just tell the truth. But all he does is tell lies, and then he gets completely shown up as a lying bastard all the time. How'd you take over from Rishi Sunak and be a more morally and actually corrupt Prime Minister? How? How do you do that? He's managed it, though. Look, within...
Fair play to him.
Prime Minister, he was already a failure.
That's quite a feat.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, in fairness, that what's really crap about this is that... Oh no, I'm gonna get a load of stick off people for saying this. But if in the last like 15 years, he is probably he probably is one of the best prime ministers that we've had, and it just goes to show how shit the last 15 years has been in British politics, where this is the best that we can fucking get, because he's terrible, he's awful. He needs to go. He has to resign.
You're technically right, but I would never phrase it like that because people will be like, "Oh my god, do you think he's good?" There, no, I just say he's like the least worst, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. He's the best of appalling boys.
I'm not sure.
I mean, like David Cameron, for example,
I was going to say
the worst with George Osborne's
This is where Kev comes out and says, "Actually, Theresa May was even better."
I genuinely do think.
Take the heat away from me.
Yeah,
Kev,
okay. You know what? Cancel me instead. Leave Cal out of it. Theresa May was a better prime minister than Keir Starmer. Come at me. Come at me. Fucking defend it. No, look, I'm not saying she was good. She was like a massive pile of shit. He is a slightly more massive pile of shit. She was a better prime minister than he was.
I guess though that she had far less political capital, and after the 2017 election, quite literally he lost the majority. So in a way, she was less effective in many of the things. I mean, we can't forget.
Well,
I mean, this is her as Home Secretary when she did the.
Again, I'm nitpicking here or whatever, but she managed to keep a Tory party government just about trundling along, having to beg the DUP for votes. Keir Starmer can't corral 120 majority.
I don't think I would have to really look into it. But I don't think you're. I would have to like do my research, but I don't think you're crazy to suggest that though.
Yeah, like I mean, again, it's.
And I think I personally think there are certain things about Keir Starmer that's to the right of Boris Johnson. Like Boris Johnson in 2019 promised to uplift benefits.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. There's trans rights, definitely, 100%.
And actually, again, like with Theresa May, she's not some fucking queer sort of hero, but she didn't attack, or her government didn't attack trans people as they have under like West Street.
And she have LGBT rights than most prime ministers have in the last.
So like there are things in which Keir Starmer's government is to the right of previous Conservative governments. But the what I do hate is when people completely forget about David Cameron's government. Right.
Oh, David Cameron's government are absolute scum. But again, Keir Starmer, this is where it becomes a matter of him just being another Tory prime minister.
Yeah. Is
that on that the Mandelson shortlist, right, was Peter Mandelson, Bear Grylls, obviously, and fucking Gideon Osborne, George Osborne, the former fucking Chancellor of the Exchequer, who has the blood of 300,000 British people on his hands through austerity. Yep. I'm sorry. At least, like, she fought back against the Tory, right? He wanted to send him to fucking Washington D.C.
Yeah, that's true. Very true.
Like, it's.
She literally had more of a moral conscience in that particular thing
Yeah.
than fucking Keir Starmer did.
And she was a robot as well, but at least she did the funny dance.
Yeah,
It showed that she had some personality to her.
yeah. I think she slightly took herself not that serious when she did that.
Yeah, exactly. You couldn't see Keir Starmer doing that. You just couldn't. So, I mean, yeah, on a number of factors, he is to the right of her. And either way, far less competent as a politician.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't know. But that just shows the crop of shit we've had for so long that we're genuinely like struggling to find.
The British political class now is so shrunken. It's so pathetic that the fucking Kemi Badenoch is the leader of his Majesty's loyal opposition. What a pile of absolute dog shit. That Keir Starmer versus Kemi Badenoch at Prime Minister's Questions is the ultimate example of how far this country has fallen.
Lucky I don't watch it.
Awful. Fucking awful. Well, you don't need to watch it. Just those two names as the leaders of our two parties. It shames us as a country.
Should we wrap up? Because it's 9:15. It's gone for nearly 2 hours.
Yeah,
if there's any super chats, though, we've
just got one more from Jaris, who has said, first time I've had the opportunity to sit through a whole Turn Left stream.
Oh, brilliant.
Thank you, comrades.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us, Jaris.
And thank you both for a wonderful show, as always, as well.
And thank you, Cal, for being awesome.
Thank you so much for being a great producer. You handpicked some. I mean, we get good comments all the time, but I thought you handpicked some really good ones there.
Thank you very much. Until next time, I'll see you again.
Thank you. Of course, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Of course, thank you so much, Kevin, for joining me for the second time this week.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate our time spent together. It's very special to me.
It is special. And I think people know that. People are like, you guys got some good chemistry. It's why you're a regular guest. That's why you always be a regular guest.
Oh, it's not because I've got a sweet piece of ass.
Yeah. Unless you do some kind of scandal and like something really, really bad, then, we might have to,
I wasn't
sorry.
But I wasn't told. The money was just resting in my account. It's fine.
True. And I didn't know. know. Always a pleasure. Of course, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to all the super chats and the comments. Remember, you can support our work by going to turnleftmedia.co.uk/support. Hit us up on Patreon or Ko-Fi, or you could become, a YouTube member for 99p. Remember, we go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7:30 p.m. You've been watching Normal Ireland Live. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.